Okay, so I want you to picture the headquarters of the New World Order.
Right.
When you hear that phrase, and just, put aside the tinfoil hat stuff for a second, what actually comes to mind?
Well, Geneva, right. Or maybe somewhere inside the Beltway in D.C., a secret bunker carved into the Swiss Alps. Something like that.
Naturally. You think of the centers of hard power, finance, military, global policy.
Yeah, you definitely do not think of Haiti.
No. Unfortunately, when the world looks at Haiti right now, they usually see, well, the exact opposite of order. They see a crisis.
Gang violence, political collapse, a humanitarian emergency that it feels like it never ends.
Exactly. But today, we are looking at a stack of documents that claims we've got it all wrong. We're doing a deep dive into a worldview that says Haiti isn't collapsing. It's actually under new management.
Divine management.
Divine management, and that it is currently the staging ground for a global takeover that, according to these sources, has already begun.
It's a really fascinating and, frankly, a jarring perspective. We're so used to looking at Haiti through the lens of, say, disaster relief or political failure.
Right.
We're not used to looking at it as the cockpit of a global spiritual empire.
And we have a really unusual mix of sources to unpack today. On one hand, we've got corporate records and just a massive stack of transcripts from a Florida-based nonprofit. It's called the End Time Sabbath Worship Center, and is led by a woman named Junon Volney Brutus.
And these are not just sermons, are they?
No, they read more like intelligence briefings.
They really do. I mean, they're decoding flags, they're analyzing bloodlines, issuing prophetic declarations, and monitoring global events. It's a very active, almost paramilitary style of theology.
And just to keep us grounded, so we don't get completely lost in the ether, we're balancing that with a heavy-hitting academic paper by Matthew Gill from the Santa Clara University Undergraduate Journal of History.
And he's looking at the sociology of it all. Why spirituality and politics in Haiti are, well, they're basically the same thing.
And that's our mission today. We aren't just looking at a religious movement for the sake of, curiosity. We're trying to understand how a specific group of people make sense of a world that feels like it's falling apart.
Right. Is what we're reading a divine coup d'etat, or is it a very sophisticated coping mechanism for centuries of trauma?
Let's start with that phrase you just used, divine coup d'etat. Because in the transcripts from Junon Brutus, this isn't a metaphor. She's claiming something literal happened back in 2012.
June 2012, to be specific. That's the timestamp on this whole shift.
Okay, so June 2012, what exactly went down?
Well, the central claim in the transcripts is that God looked at the leadership of Haiti, and you could argue the leadership of the entire world, and just issued a vote of no confidence.
A vote of no confidence.
Yeah. The narrative here is that human democracy had failed. The elections, the UN interventions, the NGOs, all of it, a failure. So God supposedly bypassed the ballot box, bypassed parliament, and just executed a spiritual takeover.
So in their view, God is the president now.
Essentially, yes, but it's a bit darker than just God is in charge. You have to look at how they explain the current violence. I mean, anyone watching the news sees gangs controlling Port-au-Prince, absolute chaos in the streets.
Oh, absolutely.
Most of us see that as a tragedy, a failure of the state to protect its people.
Right, it looks like anarchy.
But if you read the Brutus transcripts, she reframes it entirely. She quotes a prophecy saying, "I will purge the nation of idolatry." So she interprets the gangs, the collapse of the government, not as a disaster,
But as a cleaning.
as a cleaning. It's heavy.
It reminds me of that line about making an omelet. You have to break some eggs, but on a national scale.
They use this bulldozer metaphor explicitly. If you want to build a palace on a site that has a rotting, condemned building, what do you do first? You don't paint the walls.
No, you bring in the bulldozer.
You destroy the old structure down to the bedrock. So, for the believers listening to this message, the gang violence isn't random. It's the demolition phase of a divine construction project.
There was one specific comparison in the notes that actually gave me chills. She talks about Pharaoh from the Bible.
Yes, and this is a crucial theological point for them. It answers the question, why is God letting these bad guys win? In the Bible, God hardens Pharaoh's heart so that Pharaoh will keep fighting, which, eventually leads to his total destruction.
I see where this is going.
Brutus argues that God is currently hardening the hearts of the gang leaders and the corrupt politicians.
So the worse they behave.
The closer they are to their own destruction, it's an accelerationist view. If the gangs are getting more violent, the believer doesn't despair. They say, God is hardening their hearts. The end is near.
Wow, it completely flips the script on fear. It turns terror into a sign of progress.
Mm.
But here's the million-dollar question. Why Haiti? I mean, if you're proposing a divine new world order, why would you start there?
This brings us to the core of their identity politics, and I mean politics in the deepest sense. The transcripts claim that Haitians are victims of a case of mistaken identity. They aren't just Haitians.
They claim they're the Israelites.
You're right. Specifically, the biological descendants of the tribes of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin.
I've heard this in other diasporic movements, this idea of being the true Jews. But how does that fit into the current crisis? Does it just give them a sense of pride or...
It does, but it also functions as an explanation for the suffering. The logic goes like this. If you are the chosen people, you're held to a much higher standard than everyone else.
Okay.
So the source argues that Haiti's suffering isn't just bad luck or bad geopolitics, it's divine punishment for idolatry.
And by idolatry, they mean one thing.
They mean Vodou, exactly. We'll get into the flag in a minute, but they view Vodou not as a cultural heritage, but as the breach of contract. It's the reason they lost their status.
But there's a hope part, right?
But, and this is the hope part, because they are the chosen bloodline, they're also the only ones destined for a supernatural restoration.
There was a wild connection in that 2012 transcript about the U.S. I had to reread it twice because it was just so specific. It mentioned Barack Obama.
Yes, that really anchors the timeline of this whole movement, doesn't it? The claim was that Obama's re-election was divinely ordained.
But not for the reasons you'd usually hear. Not about policy.
No, not at all. The transcript claims he needed to be on the U.S. throne, their words, specifically to lift the black race and set the stage for these end-time events.
It's all connected.
It connects the local struggle in Port-au-Prince to the absolute highest levels of global power. It just reinforces this idea that Haiti is the pivot point for the whole world.
Okay, so if Haiti is the pivot point, and there's a secret history here, there have to be clues, right?
Yeah.
This is the part that felt like a movie to me. Decoding the flag.
Oh, it is Da Vinci Code style reading of national symbols, absolutely.
I mean, I've seen the Haitian flag 1,000 times. Blue on top, red on bottom, coat of arms in the middle. It's a flag. But the Brutus transcripts look at it and see something completely different.
Well, first you have to understand the color war. In Haitian history, there's always been this tension between the blue and red flag and the black and red flag.
The black and red was Jean-Jacques Dessalines' flag, right? The revolutionary general.
Right. Dessalines ripped the white out of the French tricolor to make the first flag. And historically, the black and red is often associated with the more radical and sometimes Vodou-centric elements of the revolution.
Yeah.
The Brutus narrative draws a hard line here. The black and red, that's satanic.
And the blue and red.
Divine. She claims it contains the plan of salvation, but the real mind-blown moment is the coat of arms. Just picture it. You've got the palm tree in the center, cannons on the sides, a drum, some bayonets.
Right. War symbols, freedom symbols, stuff like that.
She says, look closer. She claims the coat of arms is actually a disguised menorah, the 7-branched lampstand from the Jewish temple.
Wait, really? How does she get there?
It's a visual decoding. She says, look at the bayonet sticking up on the sides.
Yeah.
They represent the candles or the wicks. The drum at the base.
Yeah.
That represents the mouth of God. And if you look at the center of the palm tree, she claims you can actually see the eyes of the Lord searching the earth.
Wow. So where a historian sees a palm tree and guns tools of revolution, she sees a biblical artifact hidden in plain sight.
And this is where we have to bring in Matthew Gill, our academic source. Because this religious view that the flag is holy and Vodou is the enemy, it clashes so hard with actual history.
Because the Haitian Revolution wasn't just Christian, was it?
Not at all. I mean, Gill's research emphasizes syncretism, the blending of beliefs. He points out that the revolution succeeded specifically because they mixed things. You had Toussaint Louverture using Catholic rhetoric to talk to the French.
While he's dealing with guys like McCandle.
A powerful Vodou priest. And Micaiah, another leader who famously said he served 3 kings, the King of France, the King of Spain, and the King of Congo.
So the academic view is, we won because we mixed our spiritualities, we were flexible.
Correct. Unity through diversity. But the Brutus and end-time Sabbath view is the total opposite. They argue that the mix is the curse. They say, we didn't win because of Vodou. We've been punished for 200 years because we allowed Vodou into the mix.
That is a massive distinction. Gill wants to integrate. Brutus wants to purify.
Precisely. And for the believer, that purification is the only way to stop the suffering.
But this isn't just about history, though. It's about right now. And this brings us to what I think is the most intense part of these documents. Operation Pite Feel.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where theology becomes a weapon.
Before we get to the operation itself, we have to set the stage with a conspiracy theory. They describe a replacement plan. And honestly, with the way the world talks about migration right now, this this hits a nerve.
It reflects a very deep existential anxiety. The claim is that world leaders know Haiti is this special mystic place, the future HQ of the New World Order. But they don't want the Haitians there.
So the theory is, get rid of the people, keep the land.
Exactly. She talks about a 30-year plan, supposedly started in 2004, to empty Haiti. She even uses the phrase concentration camps, claiming that Haitians are being shipped out globally to clear the board so the elites can move in.
And she points to the U.S. Embassy as proof.
Right. It's a classic conspiracy tactic, taking a tangible fact and spinning it, she asks. Why is the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince so massive? Why build a fortress like that in a country that's supposedly so poor and insignificant?
And her answer is?
Because they know it's the future capital.
Right. So if you believe that there is a global conspiracy to erase your people and steal your land, how do you fight back? I mean, you can't outgun the U.S. military. You can't outspend the global elites.
You use Operation Pite-Fil.
I looked up the translation. It's Creole for bursting the gallbladder.
It's a visceral image, isn't it? Bursting the gall implies bitterness or, physically crushing the insides of your enemy. It's a prayer campaign, but let's be clear. This is not kumbaya.
No, the language is military, activated, targeting.
It is spiritual warfare. She calls for God to send confusion into the ranks of the enemy. She prays for them to play chess against themselves, basically to make unforced errors, to fight each other, to have their paperwork disappear.
That was the detail that stuck out to me, the paperwork. She specifically targets the Cour supérieure des comptes, the Superior Court of Auditors. Why on earth would a religious movement target the auditors?
Well, think about it. If you believe the system is rigged, who are the gatekeepers of that system?
The bureaucrats.
The people signing the contracts, auditing the funds, the paper pushers.
I see.
Exactly. If you disrupt the Court of Auditors, you disrupt the flow of money and power. It's actually a very strategic target for a revolutionary movement, even a spiritual one. It suggests they really understand how the state functions or malfunctions.
It's weaponized bureaucracy.
It is, and it empowers the listener. You might be sitting in your living room in Florida or a church in Port-au-Prince, unable to do anything about the violence outside, but through this prayer, you are hacking the government's mainframe spiritually. You are participating in the coup.
This leads us to the final big contrast, the way they view the suffering itself. We have Matthew Gill, the historian, describing a cycle.
Right. Gill's paper is titled Breaking the Cycle. He identifies this historical loop. You have oppression by the elites, then the peasantry revolts, usually driven by spirituality. They win. But then a new elite rises up, often co-opting that same spirituality to secure power.
And the oppression starts all over again.
It's a depressing loop. Revolt, new boss, same as the old boss, revolt again. And Gill warns against the Messiah complex, waiting for a savior figure like Aristide or even a religious leader to fix it all. He says Haiti needs strong institutions, not more saviors.
But the Brutus transcripts, they look at that same cycle and say, no, that's not a cycle, that's training.
The Navy SEALs metaphor. This is a brilliant, if troubling, piece of rhetoric. She argues that God is putting Haitians through SEAL training.
Which is arguably the hardest military training on earth.
Exactly. It's rigorous, it's painful, and a lot of people wash out. But the point of SEAL training isn't cruelty. It's to forge an elite warrior. She says God doesn't need a massive army of mediocrity. He needs a small group of spiritual operatives who can handle anything.
So if you're starving, if you're terrified of the gangs, you aren't a victim. You're a recruit.
You're a recruit. It turns trauma into a credential. It tells the listener you are suffering because you are being forged into something stronger than anyone else on earth.
There was one more metaphor about water that I think is important here. The Dead Sea.
Yes, from one of the Sabbath school transcripts. It's a warning against passivity. She says, look at the Dead Sea in Israel. It takes water in from the Jordan River, but water never flows out.
And because it has no outlet.
It becomes toxic. Nothing can live there, she tells her followers. If you receive this secret knowledge, this truth about the flag and the coup, and you don't let it flow out, if you don't witness to others, you become stagnant and toxic.
So to mandate to recruit, you have to be active. You have to be part of the Pite-Fil operation.
It's how movements grow. You give people a secret identity. Israelites, a high-stakes enemy, the global conspiracy, and a daily task spiritual warfare.